Hi, welcome back to my channel. It's Jane here, and today I'm going to show you the colouring process for the card that I made for this year's MFT Stamps Card Design Superstar competition in the Colouring Virtuoso category. I decided I wanted to do something a little different, and I've never tried colouring on dark cardstock before, so I thought, why not push myself out of my comfort zone a little bit? And so I've grabbed this stamp, which is one of my favourite wintry images from MFT, called Warmest Wishes. And I'm stamping it onto some black cardstock with white pigment ink. My plan is to colour the image in with white pencil first of all, and then add my colour over the top. So I'm hoping that the white outline will just kind of blend in with the colouring and we'll be left with a no-line colouring type effect. So I've stamped that down very lightly twice to get a good image. I'm just cleaning off my stamp and popping it to one side. So the coloured pencils that I'm using are these Arteza pencils. To be honest, colouring with pencils is not something that I've done a lot of. The Arteza pencils were a great price, I thought, for the 72. So that's what I decided to get before I jumped in with something more expensive like Prismacolor. But to be honest, I've been enjoying using them so much. I may upgrade to Prismacolor now that I've found that I actually really like colouring with pencils. But the Arteza ones have actually been really, really good. So I'm not going to rush into buying something more expensive at the moment because I quite like the results that I've been getting with these pencils anyway. So as I mentioned, I'm just starting off here with white and popping down a layer of that base colour, or base white rather. And then I have actually swatched out the whole 72 set of pencils onto a piece of card. And I'm just looking at that to decide what colours I want to put over the white to make up the colours for the hat, scarf and gloves. I wanted to go for a kind of teal, like blue-green colour. So those are the pencils that I'm just going to grab now. I'm starting off with my lightest colour, which I think is turquoise, but I'll have all of the colours listed in the accompanying blog post to go with this. So I found that colouring with pencils is a lot different to using alcohol markers, which is my usual colouring medium. With the pencils, you add on layers of colour. So start off with quite a soft layer of the lightest colour and then continue to build up on that, because the pencils are quite waxy, and as you add more and more layers it kind of builds up the intensity of the colour, rather than markers where you blend from the darkest into the lightest and the lighter colours kind of desaturate the dark colours to help with that blend. It's a completely different process behind building up the colour with the colour pencils. So here I've actually gone in with the mid-tone, and then I've realised that that's not kind of really working for me to build up the colour that I want to. So I'm going to go back to the darkest shade, and that's what I'll do going forward. I'm going to grab my darkest shade, colour in where the shadows would be, and get that quite intense depth of colour there, and then move into the mid-tone and back into the lightest tone, and then keep adding layers as I go along until I'm happy with the shading. So here you can see I'm just really getting into those areas where there would be shadows in the hat. So into the creases and the little folds of the hat, to the areas behind those where the light wouldn't really get to. And I'm actually extending beyond the lines of the stamp as well, because I'm just trying to imagine what that would look like in real life. If you have never tried shading on a picture before, there are some really, really good resources out there. I remember watching a video from Christina Werner, or Star of May, where she shows you how to do a light study and imagine where the shadows would fall on a picture. And I've always found that really, really helpful in my colouring process, whether it's pencils, alcohol markers or anything else. I think there's some free resources on Kit and Clouder's website as well to do with light studies. So again, well worth checking out, and I'd highly recommend that you do that if that's something that you're interested in. So that is the process behind the colouring that I'm going to be doing today. As you can see here, I'm just going from the darker shade into the mid-tone and then adding on another layer of that lighter colour to build up the kind of opacity of the colour. And I'm going to do the same thing for the rest of the image. So what I'll do now is just speed up the colouring and give you some music to listen to instead of me. So now that I've finished colouring my image, I need to add some kind of background. And honestly, I left my card for about 2 or 3 days at this point because I actually really liked how the image had turned out. And I was just afraid that anything I added was going to detract from it or spoil it. So I gave it a lot of thought and decided to just do something quite simple, just a small amount of colour around the girl, just to make it look like we're kind of glimpsing into a little scene, a little winter scene. So I've used a landscape edges stencil, I'll put the proper name for it in the description, to do the outline of a little snowdrift, which I've coloured in with my white pencil. And I've added some shading in blue colours, having taken some inspiration from some Christmas photos that I had on my phone, where I noticed the snow wasn't properly white. It had a kind of blue shade and all the shadows were a darker blue. So I took my colour inspiration from that. And then I've used an older MFT stencil, the balloon one, just to create a shape around my image within which to work. I then layered the snowflake flurry stencil on the top, and I used that to draw through with the white pencil to add the snowflakes in. I've then done the same thing and added some shading to the snowflakes with blue. And then I've used a darker blue to colour in the sky, adding some grey along the bottom to give it some depth and shadow. And I've done the same thing for the snow on the ground as well, just adding the grey around the edges to give it that bit of depth. I'm then taking a sentiment from the This Hugs For You stamp set. I've gone with Warm Winter Hugs, and I'm just laying that out on my card using a T-square ruler to just make sure that that's lined up straight. And I'm going to stamp that in the same pigment ink that I used to do the outline of the girl earlier on. So my card's almost finished at this point, but you will see from the finished photo that I did add some white stitching around the edges just to really finish that off, and I did that with a white Jelly Roll pen. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Say hi in the comments, and hopefully I'll see you again soon. Bye.